So, I might not be the best description of it, if you will, because my experience is very different than the people going through it today, and I encourage listeners and people to go and look now, see what's happening right now and how people are living and everything, because every experience is different. But for me, again, I don't know too much about the politics and the depth and everything like that, but people who are forced to leave their home, whether it be civil war, war in general with a different country, and or climate, which is happening now more than often, and for seeking refuge from political asylum, those kinds of things. They're all in that pool. They're all treated a little differently, of course, politically, and it's really unfortunate, because I feel that most refugees and where they are today and all those kinds of things shouldn't be there. There is no reason to have refugees, unfortunately, because there's no reason to, we brag about how advanced and civilized and technological and amazing we are, right? We hold up awards like nobody's business, but we can't figure out how to sit down around a table and talk and not go to war, which causes a continuous ripple effect through our entire planet. People don't understand that just because a war is happening on the other side of the planet, it's not impacting you. And perhaps it didn't in the 90s, 80s, 70s. There was a little bit of a disconnect, but today, like, you feel that ripple. It goes through, like, it's there and it's visual. You see it every day. So the thing about refugees is that no one chooses that. That's not a choice. That is a choice made for you, right? And so when you end up in a refugee camp, it's exactly what it is. It's a camp. It's a concentration camp. It's where you are monitored 24/7 so that you don't infringe on someone's border or someone's city or someone's, whatever, go outside of these parameters. It's a jail. So reuse the word camp and call it a jail, and because that's essentially what it is for these people, because they can't leave, and and um their surroundings and their environment is now, it's like burnt soil. You can't grow, you can't do anything. It's hard to connect with people. You are emotionally and physically drained to absolute bottom. And so all you cling on is hope, and that's the thing that carries people through, I think, and of course resilience and the will to fight and continue to live and make something of oneself, despite having being a doctor, despite having been a lawyer, despite having being a father, a mother, a caring son, a student, whatever it is. These people are not just animals, you know what I'm saying? And even if they were, we should treat them good, because it's the essence of intelligence, is to use it through compassion. And I don't see that, and I haven't seen that. People try, people do well, things move forward. I get that, but refugee camps are prisons for people that are displaced by things that are beyond their control. And for us to dictate who goes where and where they can't be and all of these things, when we have plenty of land around this entire planet to construct and do whatever we want to help people, we choose not to. It's a choice. And unfortunately, it's one that we will continue having to pay for, in the detriment of people's mental health. Mental health alone from refugee camps is going to skyrocket in the next 5, 10, 15 years, because it's just horrendous. So
Well,
that's how I feel. So
yeah.
at the refugee camp in of itself, everything is scarce. So you're constantly in survival mode. You can't. Everything is scarce: food, water, energy, electricity, whatever. If something is provided, it's limited. If it is a gift, what's behind it? The trustworthiness of people goes off. Like, there's so many, and then a unique thing also happens: community bonds, like connections, really deep connections, friendships, right? Marriages, love happens in these things, like, right? It's a micro community. So of course those natural human things are going to happen: birth, women being pregnant. Like these are things that you have to also deal with in a refugee camp. However, there's also a tremendous amount of remarkable people who go unsung every day, um, that work day to day on the ground with these amazing people, in refugee camps all over the world. And for me, that's what helped us come out of there. My father's art, all these things that played a role in me specifically. But yeah, it's a place that when I talk about it, I want people to understand how the severity of it first, but then realize that it is human, and that it is our responsibility with capabilities to do something.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And I guess for the audience listening, because I've read the book and I know your father's story with using his art to essentially kind of create a path for you guys to get outside of the refugee camp. Do you mind just sharing that story about your
Hmm.
dad?
Yeah, I mean, he was an extremely talented, remarkable man. I was very fortunate to have had a father figure like that. I'm very fortunate. I'm very aware of that because it's not an everyday thing, and I'm very privileged to have had that. But yeah, man, he, not only did he try to teach me like the morals and the ethics and the way, I guess, of being as righteous as you can be as a human being, and be a good person. He also was extremely like loving and family oriented and uh, religious, but also funny and poetic and artistic and very friendly and had created friendships and bonds. You know what I'm saying? Um, so he put a lot of energy into just who he was, and and I love that about him. And he painted his way basically out of that refugee camp, including alongside our family, because he convinced these soldiers, that would be outside of the fence, to bring him art supplies, and that he would paint their horses or whatever, their moms or whatever it was, that just to one paint because it's what he loved to do, right? But two, maybe establish a relationship, a friendship, that maybe you can bring me some paint supplies and some rice. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, figure it out, because you're in this world where you got to just ask, but bring some kind of value. And he knew what kind of value he had because he's been an artist his whole life. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to share stories, to engage, and yeah, so he started doing that, and one soldier sort of meeting the other, bringing him back to our tent and meeting him, and he just kind of started painting, and day and night, and until he met the guy that like ran the refugee camp. And yeah, about 6 months later, we end up like what seems like a spaceship to come to America. That's how I describe it, I think. But yeah, man, it was very powerful, what he did for us, and what he did for himself. I can't imagine what that was like. Honestly, every day I think about like what I don't even know what I would do. You know what I mean? If I had 7 kids in a tent and my wife, and the only thing, yeah, like it's really hard even to having experienced it. Just looking back, I'm like, how the fuck did that even happen? How are we still alive? So yeah, man, it's a weird thing to think about,
Yeah.
for sure.